discuss in brief the um, the the corruption that is ongoing between the vice president and the former teachers or former education administrators, technocrats, some of whom are ministers now or permanent secretaries. If you give me a minute, let me just open the document and we can start the discourse. As I said yesterday in the review overview, it's going to be a comprehensive looking at the issue, and that's why I want to take it in episodes, in segments, so that we can have a detailed analysis of it. I was approached by individuals who were very concerned, who knew about these deals, and I went and verified from authorities actually. And as we always say, we don't blame the entire government. We are not saying that every Gambian that works for the civil service is corrupt or is a bad person, because we do rely on these people in order to collaborate or in fact to get the information. And the reason we're doing these programs is to educate ourselves and to hold the system accountable and ourselves accountable, and to make sure something is done out of this. And for people that are thinking, oh, we are going to talk about this and nothing will be done, we have to talk about this, in fact, to capture it in records. It's very important when we fight corruption to make sure, I knew that. No, we have to talk about it now. And it does have impact. And whatever the case, we do our duty. And we leave it to the others to do theirs. But we do our duty and we hold the system accountable. And the program is about NIRO, NIRO, a company that is now taking over GIA, the Gambia International Airlines, which is a government-owned enterprise. And to say this is not about competition, this is about a takeover which is wrong. In a sense, it's done in a very corrupt way. These are people who are supposed to be supporting a level playing field. These are people who are paid by the Gambian taxpayers to give services to Gambia government, but not to be corrupt and to get to creating companies, which obviously they're not going to put their name on, but we managed to have the evidence that we need to call them out, to create companies. This company they're using the inside knowledge they have within government administration, inside trading, in order to take over GIA. And that means taking over GIA, something that we owe as Gambians, been taken over by corrupt individuals that we paid. They use our money and work with dubious people in order to have access to this. That's one part of it. And the other parts are many. And the risk factor, safety, and the risk factor of, in fact, Gambia be blacklisted because of the business people involved, the lack of expertise, experience. I mean, it will make our airports unsafe. But again, some unscrupulous people that might be behind this venture might be involved, I emphasize, in illegal practice, which too will put the country and the airport at risk. All of this we're going to look at subsequently. But today we are going to concentrate on an article I've released today. We'll release another article probably in 2 days, and we continue to get to the bottom of the information we have. And we'll try to do this in local languages as well. We try to get someone to summarize this in local languages to be captured well. NIRO. NIRO is a cartel by unscrupulous civil servants. NIRO is a company backed by former teachers, most of whom have served at the Ministry of Education. NIRO is a company fronted by one Suleiman Cham, the, the said owner. Still behind the scene, there are shadow partners made of unscrupulous civil servants now serving the vice presidency, state ministers, and permanent secretaries positions. Fatou Lamin Faye, the former APRC education minister, is among the silent partners and the current general manager for NIRO, and current general manager for NIRO. Now, what does this mean? This enterprise started when the vice president, Mr. Jallo, Mohamed Jallo, B. Jallo, was working as an administrator at the Ministry of Education. Then the likes of Mr. Boy, the now Minister for Civil Services, and the likes of Ababakar Diouf, the Minister of Economic Planning, they were working under the Minister of Education. And Mr. Cham, who fronted NIRO now as the owner of NIRO, was working for the Educational Department as a procurement officer. And because of his position as a procurement officer, it's alleged that they were doing deals with him. That's how the business relationship built up, to the level that it became so lucrative they needed him to step aside to go into the private sector. And when he went to the private sector, apparently or allegedly, a contract was given to him from the World Food Program, the school feeding program. Then it continued. From then on, he established the company called NIRO, which was a restaurant. NIRO was a restaurant at the Kairaba Avenue. Now, let me read from the list. During the NIRO cabal had a long-standing working relationship, starting at the Ministry of Education, where most members serve as education administrators. Mr. Suleiman Cham was the former procurement officer at the Education Ministry. The current Vice President, Mr. Mohamed B. Jallo, was once the project coordinator for the school feeding program before his promotion to PS level, and others were senior administrators allegedly operating a procurement corruption scheme. It continued. Due to the lucrative procurement deal, Mr. Cham got to resign and front the operations as a private sector operative, taking all food procurement deals from the ministry. The education World Food Program, widely known as the school feeding program, was allegedly awarded to Mr. Cham, leading to him starting with NIRO, a restaurant along Kairaba Avenue, and later acquiring a GCAA license to operate flight catering services at the Banjul International Airport with the support of his powerful silent partners. Let me stop there. And this relationship, that's where Fatou Lamin Faye came in. Remember, Fatou Lamin Faye was the Minister for Education for a long time and was the boss for the present Vice President and others. You can see why this relationship continued as it is. That's why I said it's a Kabudu of Educational Ministry technocrats. They started their deals from the Education Ministry. Now they are so big within government. Now they are going into to capture the private sector. And we'll get to that later. I mean, it continued to say that within a short period, they have now acquired a permit to go into ground handling services at the BIA and have commenced operation despite the capital intensive nature of this line of business and their outright incapacity to provide these services. We'll get to that in a minute. Now, the problem is here. They are technocrats. They are working for government. They've been involved in dubious deals within government, and one of them left government because of now it's become so lucrative, and they put him out there in the private sector in order to be taking them and contracting them directly, to the extent now they opened a restaurant, and from that restaurant they applied for a license to do something which the company had capacity to deal with them. That was for in-flight catering. We'll get to that business later in other subjects. Now, but within a short period, they decided to go for another license. This license, is to deal with flight handling services. We are at the Banjul International Airport, which they have already commenced doing. This business needs a huge capital, and the line of business is something they outright don't have capacity to deal with. You don't overnight go into a business like this. You need to build a capacity and so on. One to be noted here, a keyword to be noted here is the capital intensive. The other articles that are going to come out will explain a bit more on that. But just to introduce it now, there is an Ethiopian. There's an Ethiopian investor behind them now. That Ethiopian investor needed to be looked at. There are rumors, there are allegations that he's laundering money. And this needed to be looked at. We'll discuss that another time. The lack of capacity, will discuss that in or another article as well. As I said, we cannot just have everything in one article. We will just take the whole day. But to say that they don't have the capacity, and this is affecting services already, and it's risking the safety of our airport. The classification of our airport as a safe destination, and it might affect the business coming up there. But again, they have applied for a license to do something that is already been done by a government company. And that government company has been doing it well. There's no such problems with it. And it's a small market. It's not a market that can fit in another company. No. But because of NIRO have the vice president, have Minister Boy, have Minister Juve, and all these people behind the scenes, and others we're going to name in other articles. They're pushing for NIRO to move further, and subsequently what will happen is GIA will be out of business. And to point this, the respected civil aviation professional, Mamsid Jallo, who is the board chairman for GIA, have said this in public. In one of the articles, we are going to deal with that another time, said that they were not aware of, they were not consulted, they are stakeholders, they were not consulted about NIRO getting into this business. And he said that it's not safe, and there's no market here for multiple companies to operate. They get less than 500,000 visitors, not only visitors entirely to the airport. There's no market for that. Let's move on. Then I will read some of the details we have listed. One, we start with the Vice President, Mr. Mohamed B. Jallo. Mr. Jallo, Vice President, is also a shareholder in NIRO Company, and he has been very instrumental. He was a project coordinator for the school feeding program at the Ministry of Education, where he has a good rapport with Mr. Cham, the current CEO of NIRO. As we stated earlier, this is where the business started a relationship build-up. You can see the conflict of interest. Now, it continued to say, they continue to say that the vice president was later promoted, and Babukar Boy, the current Minister of Civil Aviation, succeeded him as the project coordinator. You see how Babukar Boy came into the picture as well. When Ethiopian Airlines representative, with whom GIA has a long been pursuing a partnership, decided to visit the Gambia, the Director General of GCAA informed NIRO first, only for the National Airline GIA to be notified when NIRO already received the guests. Guys, this is what we're talking about, the conflict of interest. Now, these officers we're paying for being ministers, being a vice president, being permanent secretaries, are supposed to be doing something right. GIA, the government, own company was already in negotiation, pursuing a business contract with with the Ethiopian Airlines. Guess what? The Director General of GCCA decided, because of obviously his boss, the ministers, his boss, the vice president, would influence the decision he takes. And guess what? These people came in, and NIRO was given the advantage to deal with the Ethiopian Airlines. You see, this is what we're saying is about corruption. It's not about, or it's a competition, opening up the business for competition. No, it's not at all. Bro, my online. Name your later. It's not at all. Let me open this again. Sorry about that. Now, it continued to say, the NIRO management received the state guests from the airport to their hotel and escorted them to the office of the VP for a meeting in which GIA was not involved nor invited. VP has also been seen going in and out of NIRO premises at the airport, particularly on weekends. People who want to doubt the relationship, people who are asking for evidence, be rest assured that I will not front anything I am not sure about. I don't jump on issues. I've been working on this for a while. Now, this have been collaborated, that this meeting did take place. People working within State House, people working at the Vice President's office have confirmed this meeting taking place without GIA, exactly as it has been reported. The Vice President welcoming potential partners for GIA, but decided, because of his personal interest, conflict of interest, entertain the guest, had the guest had a meeting and everything. What chance would GIA have? Is that level playing field? What? Is the president, is the vice president working for the Gambia, or is he working for himself and NIRO? This is why we avoid conflict of interest. This meeting took, happened, and GIA was not involved, not invited, and there's evidence that the vice president frequents NIRO's office. What does he have to do there? Especially during the weekends. Especially during the weekends. We continue. In fact, GIA initiated those discussions with Ethiopian Airlines, as they wanted the airline to be designated as Gambian airline, just like they did with ASCII Airlines. Just wanted wanting to set up a small subsidiary here in Banjul. At that time, GCAA directed them to work with GIA because of its capacity and vast experience. Again, this statement has been collaborated. That, in fact, GIA have a strategic development plan, and we'll come to the strategic development plan later. A board member who is now part of NIRO, or board member who is now the chief of staff of President Barrow, took this secret strategic plan of GIA and took it to NIRO, and that's what NIRO is using now as their strategic development plan. That's sabotage. And he did that when he was a permanent secretary. I hope the opposition are listening. I hope they will take this up. I hope Parliament will take this up. In fact, GIA initiated this because they were trying to move on to have a sort of a national airline. And because of their expertise, their capacity and expertise, experience, the then GCAA decided to allow them to go into this partnership. But the minute NIRO decided, oh, they had this catering business, it's lucrative, let's take another part of it. Now, the GCAA is working with NIRO. Why is that happening? Because the vice president is supported. So, I mean, influencing the GCAA on the decisions they take to favor his company, which is NIRO. It continues again. The discussion between GIA and Ethiopian Airlines were ongoing, only for NIRO to hijack that with the backing of these unscrupulous government officers. As I said earlier, it was ongoing. It was ongoing. You see, I can go on and tell you everything, but I just want to read this just to keep me guided, because I don't want to stay long on this or to get out of context. A government delegation went to Ethiopia to meet with the Ethiopian Airlines managers around December or so. GCAA and NIRO were part of the delegation, but GIA, as the national airline with the technical expertise, were not informed. This is the second one again. Now, first, the Ethiopian came to the Gambia, they took them to State House, they took them to the Vice President's office without GIA been informed or invited. Go and check the records. Go and check the entries at the records at the Vice President's office. Those asking for evidence. Let the Vice President office, pull out the records and see if GIA was represented in that meeting. Go and check the records again at the Minister of External Affairs when this trip happened, where the GIA was represented in that meeting in Ethiopia. They went to Ethiopia. GCAA is the authority running the airport. GIA is the authority doing services, technical services in the airport. They were let out of this. NIRO, a private company, and the state company was let off because they don't want, you see, this is not new. They're working for themselves because NIRO is theirs. The GIA is ours. The Gambian people, they don't care about us. They don't care about us. They are building up themselves and their families, the 1% of a population. And the rest of the population will be fed lies, will be fed divisive politics, tribalism, and whatever it is. That's what they do to keep themselves in power. Let's move on this. GCAA and NIRO were part of the delegation, but GIA, as the national airline with the technical expertise, were not informed. The above delegation visited Ethiopia to discuss business further, except for the DG of GCAA. All the government delegates were paid government per diem, but NIRO paid for their hotel and everything, except the DG of GCAA. The rest of the delegation, government officers, were paid our per diem as if they're working for us. And these are the same people who owns the company NIRO. NIRO paid for what? Hotels and their feeding. You see the corruption again? We are paying them per diem, working for themselves. Let's move on. In fact, one of the state ministers, I know you'll be seeing this one hearing this one. In fact, because of it was written according to the dialogue. In fact, one of the state ministers who was a delegate was hosted by the High Commission in Ethiopia. Still, he emailed the NIRO to say, "Oh, maybe you have to do some thing about my hotel because the High Commission commissioner said that I should not go to the hotel. I have to stay here. So NIRO, I suppose, did something. If people who are doubting, I can tell you there is evidence for that. There's evidence for that. It continued to say, that was just to push a point. Due to the lack of finances, NIRO, with the help of the likes of Mr. Boy and Trade Minister Juve, tapped into the teachers' union accounts and withdraw about, before that, the second person interested here in this article. Hey, sister, how are you? Okay. Second person interested here is Honorable Babakar Boy, Minister of Civil Services. If the Minister of Civil Services is this corrupt, you expect a civil service reform? That's what you have in the Barrow's government. But you'll be surprised, there are even more to come. There's more to come in this next episodes coming up. Honorable Babakar Boy, Minister of Civil Services. Mr. Boy, currently the Minister of the newly established Minister of Civil Services, is also a stakeholder in NIRO. Remember, as I said, he was a program manager. He was a permanent secretary. And all this cabal came out of the Minister of Education with Fatou Lamin Faye. You see, that just tells you. It's a continuation. Boy was a permanent secretary at the Ministry of Education for more than 10 years and is another corrupt civil servant. Mr. Boy have been playing smart, but is also one of the facilitators of NIRO. You know why the person emphasized that Mr. Boy was playing smart? You tell people of Mr. Boy, oh, he is a career civil servant, or he's this. That's not true. He is corrupt as they come. That's not true. And let him challenge it. Let him come out and challenge it. It continues to say, Mr. Boy have been playing smart, but is also one of the facilitators of NIRO. During the 2023 Hajj period, when Ethiopian Airlines requested catering for their flights to Mecca, GIA referred them to NIRO. They were referred to NIRO because that's what they do, catering services. And what happened? Due to lack, this point needs to be noted, due to the lack of finances, NIRO, with the help of the likes of Mr. Boy and Trade Minister Juve, tapped into the teachers' union account and withdraw amount of 150 million out of their money. Why I say this should be noted? At that time, they don't even have money to run the catering service. Where would they get money to run the flight handling service? That's where this investor came in. This investor, the Ethiopian investor, that need to be checked out. Where did he get his money from? It's apparently, allegedly, he is, laundering money. What money is he laundering? Stolen money from another state, money from other illicit deals, drugs, or whatever it is. This is something we need to look at, but we'll discuss that in another episode. But the other part is these former teachers, these former administrators went out there and took money from the teachers' union in order for their private business, which is NIRO. We have to continue saying this. NIRO, their private business. As government officers, this is what they do. That's abuse of trust. That's corruption. Now, when teachers need the money, it's difficult for them to even to borrow that money. If you recall, the person said this, if you recall, there was a time in recent past when teachers complained about their inability to access their funds. Well, now you know why. Mr. Boy also has two sons working for NIRO, and one of them, Usman Boy, is heading the baggage claims lost and found office for NIRO. You see what they do? They have these jobs, they neglect to invest in the youths, But their children would go to the best schools, their wives would go to the best hospitals, they would attend best hospitals, and if they're sick, our taxpayers' money would evacuate them to comfort treatment in Europe and other places. That's not enough. When their children leave school, whether they qualify or not, or there are other Gambians who are probably more qualified, they will not employ them, they will employ their own. In NIRO alone, for now we are going through the list of employees. Already we have identified two of his sons working for NIRO, and one of them is a manager. And people who will have access to this, if you have any information about the staffing, the relation, this thing, bring it out. We are not going to run with it. It will just help us to verify. I mean, will help us to verify it further. But again, this is how they work things. This is how they milk things. This is how they keep things. That's why we keep on refining the 1% of the population. Then we understand why the youths are so desperate taking the back way. Because the government officers are looting, they are taking our part, they're taking paddings, looting, doing every trick, now building business, and with that business, they are only employing their own children, mainly. Now, it continued to say, Honorable Babukar Ismaila Juf, Minister of Trade and Economic Affairs, Mr. Juf, who is also key partner in NIRO, have equally been instrumental. Mr. Juf is another person. Because remember, Mr. Juf too was an education administrator. You see? The educational cabal. The educational cabal. Mr. Juf equally been instrumental. Mr. Juf was a teacher and a former general manager for the Gambia Teachers Union Cooperative Union. Cooperative Credit Union. He facilitated access to the 150 million taken from Teachers Union accounts. Also, if you pay close attention, you will realize that no bidding was open for catering services at the university campus in Faraba. It was directly given to NIRO. Again, catering services. How many Gambians are into catering services? How many Gambians have capacity to be catering for the university? Do they give them chance? No. They have no chance in hell because of the company where our vice president Mohammed B. Jallo, where we have the vice president, where we have the minister of trade, where we have the minister of civil servants, and where I have the chief of staff. All of these people owning a company. There's no hell in chance that another small business or medium or even big can have access to anything. If they can take over the business from GIA, you think any small other business would this thing? That's why we need to really be alert here. They are taking everything away. The article continues. There have been complaints, but nothing has been done about it. Anyway, that's a topic for another day. Going further, when President Barrow gave an illegal directive which contravened the ICEO law and regulations that gave a monopoly to NIRO, he quickly drafted the letter. Within a few days, it was on the desk of the Director General GCAA. This is about Babukar Ismaila Juf, Trade Minister. You see, there's people that say, oh, a president don't need to be educated, don't need to be smart because his advisors. This is what happened. Because of Barrow, it's not that he's not educated, he's lazy. He doesn't even understand things that he signs. They make him believe. Make him believe, oh, this is what we need to do. Knowing that the trade minister knows that this is wrong. Monopolies are not allowed in such businesses. Guess what? The minister himself, trade minister, Juf, decided to quickly write that letter, knowing that it's wrong, and take it to the Director General of GCAA. Him too, knowing that it's wrong. He to know that it's wrong. It's contravening the law and regulations. But he will do it because it's coming from the vice president, it's coming from the minister of civil services, it's coming from the trade minister. These are his bosses and the chief of staff. You see, this is why it's corrupt, conflict of interest, everything that you can think of. Unfair. They run with it. The letter stated that the government is directing that NIRO will be protected. Why would a government put out directive to protect a private enterprise, not protect government enterprise? Can you just believe that? Can you just believe that? And this is the interesting thing. Their families will come out, and the Kabudu they support, you know, NPP, they have Kabudus. The other Kabudus will not come out to defend them because of they are not their Kabudu. Because these Kabudu too are tribal lineages. And if you look at the composition of these people, you see the tribal lineages. That's what they do. Its government is run by tribal Kabudus. We are just referring them to the education Kabudu. Their families will come out. And you see their comments, the families come out, that's what they do. But we dealt with the IJMA. No other person can deter us from saying it as it is. Let's continue. Now, the letter state that the government is directing that NIRO be protected. You see, this is what happens when you allow civil servants, or they're not being allowed, they are illegal getting involved in private businesses doing business with government, conflict of interest. In any serious country, the press would have gone and investigated this if they did not have the lead. They had the lead. Do you know why these things, you think the press don't know this in the Gambia? No, they know. Because how many of the press are independent? Self-censorship. How many press are independent? Let them go and investigate. There's a lead. Let them investigate. It continued. No other catering service providers should be allowed to operate at Banjul International Airport for the next 10 years. NIRO was protected for 10 years for catering services. For 10 years, for what? What have they done? For 10 years, nobody, any Gambian or any company is allowed to do catering service directly from the president. And you wonder why the company from nowhere, from a restaurant, just become powerful. This is why. Because of the interest groups. The vice president, the Minister of Civil Services, Boy, the Minister of Trade, Juf, the Chief of Staff, MODCC, I can't remember the name, I got the name somewhere. We're gonna cover him in another episode. We're gonna cover him in another episode. And for 10 years, it continues to say, this act does not follow international regulations such as the Montreal Convention, ICAO regulations on competition, etc., which made it very clear that every contracting state has to have a liberal economy where operators are free to operate. The economy is not liberal, and neither are the operators on a level playing competitive ground, which is facts. Which is a fact. We all seen how the oil call came about. There's no level playing field. And there's a protection here now. That's not a liberal economy. As a trade minister, I think he ought to know these things. Still, it seems the president is being used to give implicating directive that serves the interests of these corrupt civil servants whilst risking his reputation. No, he doesn't have any. Remember, as I said, this is not new. Just as the security port deal, this is similar things that happen. The president have his court, and I bet this one too he'll have his court. He's fully aware. He might look as a fool, Yeah, he behaves as a fool, but if it's come to monetary, he knows his interest. If come to monetary, he knows his interest. Then it continued. 4. Louis Moses Mendy, Permanent Secretary, Minister of Works, Transport and Infrastructure. The current PS of Works is also a firm supporter of NIRO. He is a firm supporter of NIRO. Is not to say that he's a partner. We are still looking into that. We are still looking into that. Like Louis, most of the team of NIRO are former staff of the Minister of Education. Louis Mendy's tenure at the Minister of Secondary Education was known for its failure. In fact, how can a government bring a man with an education background into technical ministry such as transport, works, and infrastructure? This is what been alleged, which makes sense. This Suleiman Cham must be, this Suleiman Kamara must be one of the family members, and it's sad that he's got an emblem of freedom. But let's continue. And it says here, number 5, Fatou Lamin Faye, ex-Minister of Education during Jammeh administration. This lady also owns a farm in Sifo, opposite Boy's Farm, and supplied NIRO with vegetables for their catering operations. Remember, Mr. Boy was the permanent secretary for Miss Lamin Faye for a long time. For the longest of time, Boy was his deputy permanent secretary. They have been working together. They have a close working relationship. It's not surprising they have a farm adjacent to each other. Probably they got the land at the same time and they develop it. It's a Kabudu. It's a Kabudu. Now, as I said, Fatou Lamin Faye is partner to NIRO, and as I said, it's all started from the Minister of Education during Jammeh time, and they continue their business relationship. They were corrupt during Jammeh time, they are corrupt during Barrow's time, and they built now a private company called NIRO from a restaurant. And she was appointed Minister of Basic Education in 2004 by Yaya Jammeh. In September 2016, she was given the portfolio of National Assembly, succeeding Bala Jahumpa in this role. She is also supposed NIRO shareholder and the present general manager of NIRO. She is the present general manager of NIRO. Now you can see the link of the education establishment. Guys, this is what we have to deliver for today. It's gone 46 minutes. We'll try and do it in local languages, and we'll continue bring another article, and we'll come on live to dive into this article. Thank you very much, and we have a good evening. Jerry Jeff.